The Legacy of Wisdom Project gathers and publishes answers to many of humanity's most pressing questions from some of our most experienced and profound leaders. How can we become more proactive in our own healthcare with concepts like the inner doctor that emphasize our own capacities for healing?
Well, there's so many issues around that. The first issue is that we cost the government and the insurance companies a lot more money when we get older. There's more maintenance, you know. If I drive a Volvo, it's 20 years old, you know, and I'm keeping it going, but it has to go to the garage more often to be fixed. So if people still want to live, we have to be able to do something about it. On the other hand, there has to be some discrimination. President Obama was talking about his grandmother getting a hip replacement when she was close to death. You know, what was the point of that? You know, the cost of hospitalization is fantastic at this time, and so it doesn't make sense. So the issue of maintenance, we all know what is necessary for maintenance. We ignore it. Well, some people may say, you know, I know that if I'm going to get my rye bread and chopped liver, I'm going to have cholesterol and might have a heart attack. But without it, I don't feel like hanging out either. So we have to give them that choice if that's the way they want to do it. But I think a person who would like to have maintenance for themselves can do that. And again, this goes back to the network before, because if I do it by myself, I'll soon drop off the wagon. But if I am talking with other people, so how are you doing with this? How are you doing with this? That keeps us going. So I think that's an important part. There are some remarkable ways coming in that don't cost so much money. And I'll tell you about one of them. It's called the Body Talk System. Have you heard of it? There's a guy, I can't remember his name. That's another problem. You know, the hard drive doesn't come up with the words. He's an Australian who understood, because he had already gotten into the organismic way of thinking. So who knows better than my body that is so smart that it knows where to send this hormone and this part and how to move the lymph. The body is so smart. Most of the doctors, in both allopathic and the other one, are still treating symptoms in a way. But what would be if I could ask my body? And some people have been using this kind of thing, the kinesiology. And my body says the problem is that the kidneys and the lungs are not communicating with each other. And so they have come up with this whole issue of energy medicines. I'm just talking about one of them, but there are many more that can reach back into past life stuff and so on and so forth, all of which doesn't require hospitalization. The way in which he talks about it is, you don't build the house from the roof. So you ask the body, with which should we start first? What needs to be connected? And so they touch here and they touch there, and they create a connection. And it's a very good healing modality, because it takes the body, it doesn't require labs, it doesn't require a CAT scan and all that stuff. It's much easier on the body, and the body knows what to do. It is also clear that sometimes doctors are so filled with chutzpah, with hubris, that they would like to show that they could make a body that is ready to give up last longer. There has to be a recognition both by the individual themselves to say, enough, and by the doctors to be able to say it. My sister, Leo Shalom, was dying from breast cancer. She so wanted to go to Hawaii, but the doctor was always saying, let's do this, let's do that. And some people in the family were insisting that she should listen to the doctors. And it was such a waste because she could have gone. She was still, at that point, able to move and to go and see and do that. I think one of these things that's necessary for the aging thing is to say, what would be the icing on your cake? What would you like to do to experience it before you go? I do want to say something that you'll splice it in where it belongs. I've been asked from time to time to help people to prepare for a transplant. So it happened to be that a kidney transplant was necessary by a woman who asked me to pray for her because two of them didn't take. So I asked her a question. What did you do for the donor? And she looked at me, what should I do for the donor? So I said, have your husband say Kaddish for the donor for a year, celebrate the birthday of the donor, welcome the kidney that you're going to get, and make a charitable fund for the donor in the name of the donor. And it lasted for 13, 14 years, that transplant. A rabbi, elder, was getting lungs, and it was getting it from a non-Jew. He is a Hasidic rabbi. So I had a conversation with him about the same thing. How do you welcome that lung? And what can you do for the donor? Sometimes the donors are anonymous. They don't want to let you know. As far as if they're anonymous, you can leave it anonymous, but you can find out about a birthday. And you can do all these things, prayers for the donor, and a charitable fund. God knows already who it is, so it doesn't have to be necessarily this way. But if the family is willing, or the donor family is willing to give the recipient the information and that they should come and celebrate together, that would be so wonderful.